Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. It's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is the original Stormcast, forged in Averheim or wherever the hell it is himself. It's Tom on Space Station Sigmar. He lightning bolted in for the show. How you doing, Tom?
Do not liken me to Prime. Oh no, I don't ride a shit tornado around.
Well,
Okay,
Tom, I'm excited because this show we're going to make you talk about what's good with the Stormcast. So it's going to be a good time.
It's okay. I get to talk about what's bad with them as well.
True. Also joining us is Riyadh from TableTop Minis. How you doing, sir?
Hey there, guys. Yep, thanks for bringing me on the show. I've been a long-time fan, and it's great opportunity. I'm really excited to be here.
We are super excited to have you, sir, because so first, I want to start the show by saying this. Thank you for staying up so ungodly late. There are so many people in Europe I want to have on the show, but it's really tough because I know it's like, what, 2 a.m. right there for now? Right
yeah,
there?
it's okay, but honestly, it's not too far from our normal schedule. I don't know if you've ever joined our painting hangouts, but they generally start at 10 p.m. with a 2-hour plan, and it goes on for somewhere between 7 and 10 hours until like 8 a.m. until we basically all pass out or our equipment fails. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, So two things to that. These are big important things. So viewers, here we go. One. If you're not subscribed to Tabletop Minis, you need to go do that. I'm going to have a link down below. These guys are making awesome scenario-based Age of Sigmar battle reports. Most importantly, there was recently a great scenario, it was all really awesome. The Moving Storm one I loved, mainly because the Skaven absolutely trounced the High Elves. That was great.
Oh, come on. Look, that battle report was so wrong. I was honestly thinking of not even putting it up. Let's be honest here. And Tom, I know you're a big High Elf fan. If you watched it, you know that battle went wrong. Like, that was just, rules were broken in that game.
Imric failed a 3-inch charge. That was which was my favorite thing in the history of the game. So go check out Tabletop.
Mistakes were made.
Absolutely subscribe to them. A lot of great content. Or go to tabletopminis.com. And again, I'll have their website down below. Also, I got a bone to pick with you. Here we go. You ready? It's time. It's beef. We're starting a cross-Atlantic beef. Here we go right now.
I thought this is just building a relationship here. You don't start it on the wrong foot.
Oh, we're gonna build it starting with some. I'm gonna pick a fight right at the start. Here we go.
It's okay. I'm actually in France now, so anything you say, I'm gonna take as an attack on the French, not on UK side.
All right.
Far away.
You all did in one of your paint episodes. You had 10 hours. You did 10. No, I know. Then like the camera died, the battery died, but you had 10 hours. So I believe I had the previous record for 2 8-hour paint episodes, and then because that's when Google cuts you off, and then you restarted and went 2 more hours. So you are the current title holder.
And we were gonna go longer, and we've got this plan. We were talking about it. We want a 24-hour paint-a-thon.
I'm in the same boat. It's so funny because I was talking to my wife and I was like, they went 10 hours. I've got to go longer. I got to do like a 12 or a 16.
Actually, honestly, I had no idea what the record was, but now that feels amazing. That maybe I should speak to Guinness, see if I can get in the
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't worry, it won't last.
Right, I can see this is going to escalate to where one of us is just online for a whole week painting pretty soon. That's fine.
We all might be like, totally passed out and dead by the end of it, but we'll have racks of painted miniatures. So
exactly,
it's going to be good.
People will be ready with content for a long time to come. No, in honesty, we're glad to have you. All right, great. That was a bit of a long introduction, and I don't care. It was a lot of fun. Tom, take us into the news, buddy. What is happening? What's going to be happening?
So the big news is we have pictures of Scarbrand, and we have stats. The whole thing's out on the table, and the dude is a beast. He is just. So it's a new model. I was wrong, completely wrong. I had predicted that a potential one of my tinfoil hat theories was that we would see a combination of Scarbrand with another model, possibly the dragon, and that just simply did not happen. What I didn't predict is that he would have a 40K version, and so now it's just a single model with both 40K and fantasy application. Yeah, he's. Do you have another picture of him?
So this is the big picture. This is from the front. You'll notice he's got like half his face missing or something. People have said it looks like he's wearing a monocle, which I like. He's a classy bloodthirster. There you go. There's another picture of him with his axes, slaughter, and carnage.
Yeah, I am just so surprised they released another bloodthirster kit this soon.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this?
Well, my initial thoughts were, well, we just bought a bloodthirster a couple of weeks ago, and I've just finished painting him. So I was like, oh no, I bought it just a few weeks too early. Like, the new one's going to be, so much better. And I thought maybe it'll be like exactly the same kit with a couple of different bits. But I think he's actually quite a bit different. And I don't know. I'm not too impressed, to be honest. But I don't know about his skill. Like, I know because he doesn't have the large wings that the other model has, and he's not kind of, on a flame. He's probably going to be a bit smaller. But I think his price point is a little more than the old Bloodthirster because he's a special character or named character. And I'm not too infatuated with the model. But yeah, I don't know. You're probably going to go into the rules and stuff and talk about them. They're quite interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things. So I threw up the price here. I assume you can all see my screen. I hope so, at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, 130 US. I think he's 80 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay. So, but he's that's expensive. He's going to be the current title holder, I think, for like the most expensive single model in the regular G-Dub line. Right? Like obviously, Forge World has more expensive stuff,
but not a lot more. I mean, Tamerkin is certainly up there. He's like at 180 or something like that. But what I would say is this: like, there's not a single Chaos Dwarf model that's more expensive than him.
Oh, you're saying out of the whole Forge World line?
Yeah, like of the whole Forge World line, like the Tamerkin on the Toad Dragon is more expensive than he is. But like. I was talking about this on Mitch's Chaos Dwarf review last night. As far as the price of that line goes for Forge World, for Chaos Dwarfs, it's not expensive. And I can tell you, he's more expensive than any one model, unit, monster, whatever, for all of the Chaos Dwarfs.
It seems like they're pushing the prices up a little bit. I mean, the releases, up until now, I mean, they are kind of moving towards making us try and feel a bit, like when things like this come out at this price, it's kind of, I don't know. You look at it, it's a lot of money, but all the Games Workshop miniatures, it seems like they're pushing the prices up.
I think this is their strategy. I don't think that's the case. I actually will say this. I disagree. I think they are broadening the price spectrum, and I think if we watch over the next 6 months to a year, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see things at different price points, but they have realized that it's good to have some things at the lower end of the spectrum, and it's good to have some, and they can afford to move their high end up. That's what they figured out.
Yeah, I mean, they said that in the CEO's statement, in his annual statement, and his, the board meeting that you're probably going to cover in your news. They've said that again and again that they are trying to make their range. On top of it, they said they're resetting the ranges. They're also trying to broaden their price points. So, like starter kits, they're going to be good value. But then, if you're the sort of specialist collector with, plenty of disposable income, they're also going to cater to lots of the collector's editions and so on. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, this is the definition of a luxury model. No one needs Scarbrand, and I don't just mean that in the normal sense of like these are all miniatures. We don't need them to survive like food.
Let's talk about the rules, and then let's talk about needing him or not in your army.
Yeah. Here we go. So here's his rules. I just meant like if you could go buy a normal Bloodthirster, or which is cheaper, or any older Bloodthirster, right? My point is like you get this guy if you want this guy. You sink the money, and that's what they figured out. He's a complete luxury item. He's not necessary, so they can basically charge whatever they want for him.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that totally.
So, all right. So here we go. Here is his AOS rules. And this is a lot to read for our viewers, so let me see if I can break it down quickly. So he's got 2 axes, Slaughter and Carnage. Carnage only ever has 1 attack. Slaughter has a lot of attacks. How many is based on how angry he is. So his monster chart is reversed from normal monsters, where he doesn't get weaker the more wounded he gets stronger because he becomes more hate-filled. And the other trick is, if he went a whole battle round without fighting, then he's incandescent immediately. He's as angry as he can be. He is an angry light bulb. And I love that they chose the word incandescent. I've never used that to mean angry. I'm so angry I'm incandescent. I don't think that's ever been a sentence uttered in the English language. Yeah.
No, until now.
Right. Ha. But at any rate, so at his angriest, say if he has taken 13 wounds, or if he did not fight at all last round, you might know that as on round 2 of the game, when he probably didn't fight in round 1 and, walked somewhere, and now in round 2, he's ready to go delete a unit, because his Slaughter Axe is going to have 8 attacks, at 4 up to hit, 3 up to wound, -2 rend, doing 3 damage each. But of course, you notice you have these little bullet point abilities. For every rage level he has, he gets to pick one of these special abilities. So of course, one of these is reroll all failed hit rolls for Slaughter. So that's probably going to happen. So now he's rerolling those 4-ups. And then his Carnage Axe hits on a 4-up, which he can also pick as a reroll that hit roll for that. And that thing has an ability just called Total Carnage, which this may be my favorite ability I've ever seen printed on a War Scroll so far. So every time Scarbrand hits with Carnage, you roll a die. If it's greater than this number here, which keep in mind if he's incandescent, it's automatic because it's 1-up, so it happens automatically. If it's greater than or equal to the result shown on the table, that hit has caused total carnage, and one enemy model in the target unit loses 8 wounds. No saves can be taken against total carnage. There is no escaping the Axe's wrath.
This is not damage.
Correct.
Okay.
It just loses 8 wounds.
Loses 8 wounds, and it's very
no
clear
save,
about that.
No saves.
Yes. So, but anything that would negate damage. So even the ward save stuff, none of that is going to trigger this, or this is not going to trigger any of that, because what this is wound loss, not damage.
Correct. So if any of our viewers, or if any of you have played Magic the Gathering before, Magic the Gathering has this conception of this difference between damage and life loss, right? In that one can be avoided and sort of prevented, and there are various things you can do with it, and one cannot. Life loss is sort of a cost, and it just happens, and that's clearly what they're leveraging here. It's the same distinction.
He's a bad guy, isn't he? Like he seems to me like an impact guy. Okay, turn 1 you're probably not going to be in combat anyway, but turn 2, bang, and you probably send somebody in just to get in combat with him to make sure he doesn't get back to incandescent. It's like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, you just start throwing things at him. Your goal is to throw if there's ever a guy who just needed to be weakly chaffed with things that aren't going to wound him very bad, just keep that guy busy. Yeah, exactly. Because, on average, assuming he's re-rolling those 4s to hit, that moves his hit rate up to 75%, so he hits 6 out of 8 times. He wounds 4 out of 6 of those, and with a rend of -2, probably most of those land, and he does 12 damage. Right?
It's basically any special character, right? Unless you're on a mounted dragon, or you're to have more than 8 wounds, you're not going to be on foot, So that,
right.
Yeah,
he is going to delete people. Entire units are just going to evaporate.
He should have been a bigger model than the Bloodthirster, though. I'm just going to say that. Like the normal Bloodthirster. With these sort of rules, this guy is man, he could have been something,
Yeah, it's funny, because I bet body-wise, he's exactly the same size. I haven't seen him next to the normal Bloodthirster.
Yeah, well, I've just painted the normal Bloodthirster in the last week, and I can look, when I look at the back of that model, I can see there's lots of areas that look almost identical to the Bloodthirster model. So he's obviously got his face, at the back of his legs where he's got horn, spikes coming out. They're almost exactly the same as the Bloodthirster model. But obviously the wings are a lot smaller, and because he's not on the fire, he's on the ground. He's a bit lower down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think exactly. Not being on the fire and not having those huge wings, because the Bloodthirster, obviously, he's got those big, beautiful wings. They're just some of the most impressive they've ever done. And this guy doesn't have that. He has, as we saw there, I'll jump back to the picture real quick. He has, the I think they look like the Morghast wings, right?
Yeah, they actually do.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm painting right now as well. So that's what I first thought of when I seen his wings. But when you read the story about him being like, when he hit Khorne and he broke Khorne's armor, and then he got like through. I can't remember exactly how it was put, but he got kind of burnt up and stuff, and he's basically almost lost his wings. I guess the wings look appropriate to the fluff, but yeah, almost identical to the Morghast.
And do note, they are for show only. Yeah, notice that nowhere on this ability list is the word fly. He does not fly.
Okay. And I guess his move's 8 inches as well, which is...
Yep. He's just got a long stride. Got them big legs. But no flying. Yeah.
But I've been playing Blood Bowl 2 recently, so don't talk to me about chaos and very long legs. I'm sick of them and their mutation.
Nice.
All right, so there you go. That's Scarbrand. So, that's exciting. I find it kind of strange, honestly, that we would get the second Bloodthirster so fast after the first one. It's just mysterious to me. I
totally agree. They were talking about the Lord of the Change coming out, and this was like months ago. They were talking about the new Lord of Change, right? And for a second Bloodthirster model to come out, that is quite surprising. They're still talking about Tzeentch being kind of in the line, but when you look at their new Bloodthirster compared to all their old Tzeentch, like Lord Change, Keeper Secrets, and Great Unclean One, it's like them guys really need upskilled a bit. You look at Forge World on the opposite end of the scale, and the new Bloodthirster from Games Workshop comes somewhere in between, and for their next sort of greater demon, being a named Bloodthirster, it doesn't really seem... is there any reason in the story or something that's coming out soon? I think that could be...
There was a big Scarbrand, there's mentions of like a unit of blood people that were like one of Scarbrand's like personal retinue or something, and so it seems like they're trying to play something up in the narrative with his role and response, his front and centerness.
Yeah.
I think that somebody mentioned that they had heard that all of these, basically they had done a recast of all of the greater demons some time ago, and they've just been slowly waiting on the right opportunity to trot them out. My guess is they had all these cast for special characters and other things, and they were just like, pack them up. Like they basically had already upfronted the cost for this, and were like, fine, just put them out.
Okay.
It could also be they wanted to include him in the book. Sure. The book drops this next week as well. Yes. And if they're releasing stats in a book, they probably want to release the models with it.
True, but obviously his War Scrolls on the website. It will be on the website or whatever on Friday or Saturday, but
absolutely. Yes. But if they're trying to include, if those books are the the go-to place for those forces during this edition, it very well could be that they wanted to make sure that he was out, and so that was just the consequence, was that he needed to drop at the end of this run.
Sure. Yeah, that leads into another rumor, and you mentioned it, is that is the whole Tzeentch rumor. So obviously we've got some Tau, coming. We've seen a lot of the pictures. So we're going to get our first quiet month in a long time. But then basically the rumors say come November, December, we're right back into Age Sigmar, and we're going to have the rumor that I saw is Skaven and Tzeentch. I would be shocked to see Skaven.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking. Well, no, I actually do. Let me take that back. You got to remember, one of the main resources for Skaven, like your infantry, were Island of Blood, and those have all been pulled.
Yeah, sure. There's still clan rat boxes. I don't. What do you think?
Looking a couple of weeks back, or a couple of months back, they've been saying that after this Age of Sigmar cycle and then the Chaos cycle, the next thing in line is the new Duarden, the Fire Slayers, and the artwork. You've seen some of the artwork and stuff, and it's in multiple, rumor threads and so on. And I'm not sure whether they like. I know the posts and stuff that you've been looking at that says Skaven and then Tzeentch and so on, but I can't really see them going into Skaven. I mean, they did the Pestilence thing already, and it's kind of switched into Sigmar Chaos. I think I think the Skaven for the Realm of Life, where they were fighting as well. Like I think that's probably kind of done for now. I'd be surprised if I see Skaven because for them to do like Stormcast then Skaven then Chaos and then go to back to Skaven, I don't see that as likely. I mean, I obviously you never know when you read these posts, right? But I can't see it. I think there's probably more truth in the Fire Slayers. And I think Games Workshop, if they're smart, they need to show us something new from the existing armies from the old Warhammer world reasonably soon. Okay, Skaven is, but they've already kind of done that little release already, or re-release of existing models around bases.
Well, not only that, like if that's true, let's say hypothetically, like that situation is true. That means 4 of the first 5 releases are literally the Chaos faction.
Sure, because you'd have Khorne, Skaven, Tzeentch,
and Stormcast. Yeah, so like that just seems unlikely to me.
Sure. I will say, even as a Skaven player, I certainly don't feel the need to have any more Skaven. Like we got it lavished on us in the end times. I got my new Vermin Lord that I love very much. I got my Storm Fiends. I feel like I got stuff. I'm happy. We got some repacks. I'm good. I don't look at my Skaven and go, boy, I really feel like I need more for this army. No, I definitely do not.
Where's your hardcore loyalist attitude here? Okay, you should be promoted. We need more Skaven. We've been waiting too long for new stuff. They were just repacks. We need new stuff.
I suspect that Vince doesn't want to move 100 models when he decides to activate a unit.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yes. That's part of the problem. But, I love the Skaven, and it's not that I don't want to see new releases for them ever. I certainly do. I'm just super curious about these hidden elements of the world, and exactly what you said. I want more of it to be revealed, right? I want to know what's up with the elves, because they're like this big question mark. What's up with the Duerden?
That is the biggest question on my mind, honestly. Because I'm a massive high elf player. I always have been. I played other armies and collected loads of other armies, but the new elves, when I see the way that they look, honestly, that is such a big thing for me. Like, I really hope they don't totally discard the old high elf, or I know elves are kind of all put in one bundle now, but that's really the thing that I'm most looking forward to in the new releases that will come over time.
Yeah, I still think that we're going to end up seeing the hybrid, like what we were seeing at the end with the Wood Elves. I still think like the Eternal Guard aesthetic, that combined with like the Sisters of Avalorn, if you look at the high elf kits. Like, those are all in this very similar aesthetic, and I suspect that's what we're going to end up seeing, is some combination of those units.
What do you think about them changing Malekith's name to Malerion? Now he's like, do you think that because, Dark Elves, and the way I used to look at it was Dark Elves are on one side of the fence, and then you've got Wood Elves and High Elves on the other, and now the Elves are all together under the big A-Elf banner, I still pronounce it elf, even though my brothers are like, no, they're called A-Elves, and like they keep winding me up. I'm like, do not call them A-Elves, or I'm just gonna fucking. I keep calling him.
I'm with you.
I keep calling Steamhead Warden. That's why he's getting pissed with me.
Nice.
I don't know. I would say that I still think we're gonna have Dark Elves, but I still think that we're gonna have a twist. I think that it's going to be, I think the new Dark Elf, the entire Dark Elf conceit is probably going to be focused around Slaanesh. Like, I think that, like, if you just read the story of Morathi and her joining of the Great Alliance or whatnot, teaming up, like, all that is just clearly bullshit. Like, if you just read, like, between the lines, like, how did she get out? How did she get away from Slaanesh when she was in Slaanesh's clutches? And so I think the new Dark Elves will have some very intimate connection to Slaanesh, and I think Morathi will probably be the head of that faction. I don't think that Malekith will be that anymore.
I just another point, like with Slanesh, they were saying a few months ago that Slanesh is gone now, and there was these rumors showing all the symbols, and Slanesh wasn't there, and the Horned Rat was there, and so on. But then you look at the books, like you look at even the Quest for Galmaraz, and like a lot of the books have got, displays of lots of Slanesh. I was actually surprised by the amount of Slanesh miniatures in a lot of the pictures.
Yep.
So, do you think that there's any real truth in this, like Slanesh, because it's kind of a sexy theme with all these women, and trying to make it more friendly for the younger groups? Like that was kind of the talk. Do you think there's any truth in that, or do you think actually that's just wish-wash and Slanesh is here? It's just, the story's just evolved where Slanesh's belly is full and so on. With high elves, I might add.
Yeah, like, I don't think that they're kidifying this. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with this, because the amount of murder and the amount of other things, like rivers of blood and like that, like let's be honest here, a pair of tits, that's not a big deal.
And they got rid of the nudity off those models a long time ago.
Well, Forge World haven't.
Sure.
Forge World's Keeper of Secrets is amazing.
Yeah, but in the UK, I mean, it's a little bit different than like over on the continent. In the old world, it's a little bit different than over here in the US.
Yeah, my point is no, I absolutely not. I think that was all us reading between the lines as a community. I think they are absolutely they got rid of Slanesh for the same reason and moved her out of out of the story because for the same reason that they moved aside elves and Duerden and lizardmen and these other things, because they want to do something with them and they're going to reintroduce them. And I think you're right, Tom. I think we are staring down a M. Night Shyamalan level twist here. Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. That's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the whole mystery of the elves thing, I think that's probably tied into the missing Slanesh. And I think Morathi's tied into it, and what we're going to find is that, surprise, Morathi is head of the Slanesh stuff, or Morathi is actually the Slanesh avatar or something, and we have dark elves that are pleasure seekers, and guess what? Cult of the Blood, surprise! Like, we have a bunch of witch elves, and I think all of that will go that direction.
Yeah. And they'll probably do some new models, and it'll be fine.
I was just making a new high elf team yesterday, and I was thinking, what's the name for my team? And the first thing that came to mind was like a savior of Ulthuan, and I thought to myself in my head, it was like Ulthuan's. It's like,
well, they failed.
They failed.
Yeah.
It's like I just don't want to believe it.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's gone.
Yeah, Andy and Rem did a great show yesterday talking about, how the old world's not dead because there's so much of the fluff still hanging on, and we talked about that previously too, and I agree. All right, let's move on. We got some other news.
Yeah, we have
all good things.
News. That was basically 2 points in our news cycle. We have an audiobook coming out that some of the lore is interesting. So they're doing these audiobook things now, and I don't know how I feel about them. So you're going to pay like $15 for like an hour of audio, and it's all like voice acted. And Nagash shows up, and we'll get our first glimpse into the kind of the realm of the dead. And one of the Von Karsteins show up, and we don't know which one yet, but one of the Stormcast Eternal, in his desperation in the realm of death, makes a deal with a Von Karstein, and they're introduced to this ancient vampire. So it'll be interesting.
I'm guessing Manfred, because that stupid idiot won't stay dead, and he's probably back again.
Yeah, and the reality is that he's also in the Mortark box.
Right, so you can't get rid of him. Which says, when does Neferata come back? We've already seen Archon. He showed up in the arc and got mentioned a few times offhandedly, but I want to know what's up with Neferata and Clydia. But yeah, that audiobook looks pretty cool. It sounds like it gives more of an insight, and I want to hear the guy voice acting Nagash.
Yeah.
What is that like? Because Nagash always speaks in all capital letters. What does that sound like?
Well, pay $15 and you too could find out.
I might do it just to find out.
So we have a pretty fantastic Azir Comp battle report went up this week that Vince, do you want to talk about a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I cannot say the channel name because I don't know how to pronounce it. Autisx, I don't know. AUTICUSX. That's what it is. And anyways, that's the channel. I'll put the link down below. You can look down there and find us. If you're interested in various comps, we've talked about them a lot. I think Azir comp's a really cool comp. Comes out of the Louisville Wargaming Club at Louisville. And Louisville, yes. And they put up a battle report using their comp, and it was pretty cool. And it's nice because not only is it the battle report, but he also walks you through their narrative campaign and how they set it up, because it's a whole big ongoing escalation league campaign. So if anybody out there is interested in setting up sort of that kind of thing, especially if you've got some newer players with AOS, that is a good place to go, and you can watch that video and kind of check that out. So very cool stuff there.
Talking about campaign stuff, for those that are not plugged into the internet, yesterday we launched the Mortheim alpha test.
Yes.
And we've plastered it over Twitter and plastered it with a video and in a bunch of forums and groups, and Vince will have a link below.
I will. Yeah, that's what I was pointing at. Look, it's already down there. People in the future, you're looking right now. It's not there right now because there is no down here, but right now, there it is. Look, I'm like touching it right now. There it is. It's right there.
I took a look at that, by the way, and like I only seen the video I think this morning, and I was actually I went through all the files you've been doing, and I know in your videos before you've been talking about you've been working on it, and I thought you were working on it, and it was just kind of a little small side project, but man, you guys have put some real effort into that. Like I was just, I didn't get a chance to like properly read through it sentence by sentence, but like I love skirmish games like Mortheim and lots of Necromunda and so on, and I'm really excited about actually giving this thing a try, because like it just seems amazing. I was looking at even the contents page where you've got all the warband, like Stormcast Eternals in Mortheim.
Absolutely. They can get in there the same as anybody else. Absolutely.
And another side thought was the first battle report that I do is going to be like Mortheim : Age of Sigmar battle report. It's like I'm not only going to capture people that want Age of Sigmar battle reports, but I'm going to get Mortheim guys too.
Yes, absolutely. You're going to have a bunch of people showing up there like...
That's how I think, but
what?
It's just,
Sure. Absolutely.
As I described on the forums to an individual, they're like, why would you take something awesome and add something crappy to it? And I'm like, well, first of all, they're not. But let's just, it's more like peanut butter and jelly, okay? If you're not Vince, and you're not allergic to peanut butter,
because that's poison,
then peanut butter's like it's fantastic. Jelly, it's okay, standalone. But man, you slap those two together, and it's a entirely different level. And I really believe that about kind of what we've created with Mortheim.
Yeah, and I mean, what I'll say real quick is just, and I've said this before, if Age of Sigmar had come out as a successor game to Mortheim, right, and not as a successor game to Warhammer Fantasy Battles, it would be the least controversial release in the history of gaming, right? Everybody probably would have been like, hey, great, a new Mortheim thing, cool, right, if that was what it was. So it's not that, like, I really feel that the majority of the anger is not directed at the system, it's directed at the system because of what it replaced, right?
Yep.
And I feel like, hey, even if you didn't like it in that regard, give this a look. I think it's really good. And yeah, we did. It's probably 150 pages or something all told, I guess, in that range.
104.
Yeah, we don't do anything halfway. Well, then there's the 45 pages of the warbands.
51 pages of warbands.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Yep. Okay. So we're not going to dwell on more time. Check it out. We have a bunch of other videos. We've launched a new series called Town Crier, where we'll be getting together regularly and doing Mortheim stuff. And so it'll be Warhammer Weekly-esque, but with obviously an exclusive focus on Mortheim and all things Mortheim. So there's a Mantic is in full court press after their success with Kings of War 2. They have a Kickstarter going on right now called Warpath, and man, they are just kidney punching GW as hard as they can, because their armies are like human Space Marines, squats, and Skaven in space.
Yes, their 3 starter armies are sort of a Space Marine knockoff that look more like cops, sort of more like, they look like the guys out of that, I'm screwing up the movie, Elysium. There we go. Yep. They look kind of like Elysium dudes, and then you've got space rats Rats in space, and you've got and space dwarves, and some of the models are pretty cool. I like their little jets and stuff. Their jet bike riders look cool. But it's funny to me that they're very smart about this. Their first armies were like things that people like and miss from 40K or wanted to be in 40K but don't exist. If they could have thrown in like a Sisters of Battle army too, they really would have just nailed the trifecta of complaints about missing armies in 40K. What do you think? What do you think about that? Did you get a chance to look at that Kickstarter at all? Yeah.
No, like generally, I'll unashamedly say that like Games Workshop's pretty much. I've always played Games Workshop games, and like recently I've tried a few others like Frostgrave, which is like a new skirmish game. But generally, I've always been 40K and Warhammer and Blood Bowl, all the specialist games. Like I've never had a need to go and look elsewhere, and this is in large part because I took a large break from the hobby. So I spent 8 years or so in my whole teens, which was back in the 90s. Through the old like Warhammer, Games Workshop were basically the only place, or you had TSR, you had Dungeons and Dragons, all that stuff. But Games Workshop was the only way that you'd get nice looking miniatures and you could play tabletop game. And then I took a long break, and then I only recently came back into the hobby, which was like last year. And it's a totally different world. It really is. There's no metal, or generally not many metal miniatures anymore. There's there's so many manufacturers. A lot of these companies are started by ex Games Workshop staff. You've got Alessio Cavatori, Jervis Johnson. All these guys are doing loads of really cool stuff. But there's such a wider market now. There's so much more to choose from. So when I came back in, to cut the long story short, is I've basically been just playing what I'm used to, which is the games I love: Necromunda, Warhammer, and Warhammer 40K. And then I was catching up in the games that I missed, which was like Battlefleet Gothic and Mortheim. So there were games that were released when I wasn't in the hobby, and that's enough to occupy myself for a long time. So I'm already swamped, but then on top of that, you've got all these great other stuff that's available, and I'm only just getting to grips with the fact that you've actually got some other decent alternatives, and I mean, just to name some of the big ones, Kings of War, really good alternative to fantasy. Seems a bit simpler, but I don't really find any reason to play Kings of War when you've either got the Warhammer Fantasy 8 to play. I mean, you can still play it, right? And or Age of Sigmar, and then you've got like War Machine. I don't really like the models. It seems like a game for proper competitive people. I mean, I'm willing to try all these games. I'm just giving you my opinion on, being somebody who's, been back in the hobby for not such a long time. And then you've got like Malifaux, which seems really cool. I love the setting there and the card system rather than dice. I know you picked up Malifaux recently, right? And you probably got some first impressions and stuff. But probably the first game out of Games Workshop that we've actually tried is Frostgrave, which is like this. You basically just buy a rule book. It's like £15, which is like $25. You use like existing miniatures. You can use whatever you want, and it's like a spellcasting game. So
yeah. No, I've been looking at it. It's pretty cool. I definitely want to. My shop actually has a couple like Frostgrave type themed miniatures in, so I think they got like another company to release a few like at least branded things or something like that. That there were other lines minis that they said, hey, you can use this for Frostgrave.
Well, I think for Frostgrave, the author produced the book, and he got it published through Osprey, and then he got another company, North Star, to do the miniatures, and they did some miniatures, which I'm not impressed with the miniatures, to be honest. But you can use anything, any wizard that you have, any like warband, like if you've got a Mortheim collection, it's perfect. Like my next project, I've got all sorts of Mortheim miniatures ready to get painted for it. So.
I do love me painting up some Mortheim warbands. It's so rewarding, right? Because it's like 12 to 20 minis, somewhere in that range. And even now, that's probably, even with our Mortheim AOS, you're probably still in about the same range of minis. You can knock that out. Feel like you finished something. It's a great accomplishment.
That's with these like skirmish campaign games. It's like every miniature is like a guy on your team. Do you know what I mean? Yep. He's got a lot more value than in a large. Although there's playing mass scale battles is fun, But when you've got unit 40, it's just like everybody's just one of them.
Yep.
But when you're kind of living the story through the campaign of your guy, it's just so much more interesting. And with your Eos, with your Mortheim Eos Age of Sigmar skirmish rules, like I think that that might be excellent. Like I really want to try it and see what it's like. I've not had time to absorb the rules, but we'll definitely give it some time.
Yeah, and then finally, 40 minutes into the show, let's conclude the news segment.
Sure, I'm not holding you guys
You're
up.
fine. I don't care. It's fine.
We just wanted to mention that the Toughest Girls of the Galaxy 2 Kickstarter, they just had an update with just a massive amount of like the renders and actual like some of the first prints, and these miniatures are just bonkers, people. And I think Vince is going to show you some of the images. And if you guys are interested, like you can still pledge for this Kickstarter, and it is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I'm just going to slowly scan through these for a moment because they're amazing. The matriarch here with her. So these will have both sci-fi and fantasy versions. So basically, with gun and sword.
What you're looking at, like, so they had basically an army that's the equivalent of like the Sisters of Sigmar, and then the Sisters of Battle. It's like the sci-fi and fantasy versions. They have a dark elf and a like dark Eldar basically, and then they have a like a Slaanesh slash like Slaanesh sci-fi Slaanesh fantasy line, and the stuff is just ridiculously good looking. Yeah, it's just it is.
You don't think though? Like, can I just ask you a quick question? Like,
yeah.
With a lot of these smaller companies, and like they tend to base their miniatures a lot more around the female sculpt and like trying to make their miniatures look sexy. I mean, just some examples are like Axe Faction. I don't know what else. There's lots of them out there. I mean, if you look at smaller companies, they tend to make them more around the female sculpt. Do you think it's just because like a lot of people just buy a sculpt because they like painting girls, or like?
Well, if you're Vince. No, yes, I think that a lot of it is that people just like painting the female form, and they understand their audience, which is a bunch of men in their
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But just my other question then would be, why does Games Workshop not go in that direction then, if that's the mass audience? Or do you think that is why is it the smaller companies but the larger ones don't?
I wish I had an answer to you on that one. I have no clue. I have lamented that on the show 100 times, and I'm going to keep doing it. But I know I'm going to spend way too much money on that Kickstarter. I mean, obviously I backed it, and when they're, yeah, I'm all in on that. Let me tell you what. I don't even know what I'm going to use the minis for. I don't care. I don't even care. That's not what's relevant. It's not important. We'll get to that later.
No, I bought one of these Axe Faction. What's her name? I can't remember what she is, but she was amazing. It was on like this troll slayer's head, and like, man, as a miniature, beautiful.
Yeah.
But Games Workshop have never done anything like that that I remember anyway.
I would tend to agree. I think it's probably the best female minis they did in the old line in fantasy were the Amazon Mortheim Warband, which I loved to death and was absolutely fantastic.
You're saying in both pre-Witch Elves?
Yes, pre-Witch Elves. In the old metal line, like pre-new releases.
Yeah. Yeah, Witch Elves were just ridiculous, like the current plastics.
Sure. Probably the current best. All right. Well, there you go. That's a lot of news. Check that out. You can still pledge at that Kickstarter if you want to get in on that. If those models look cool to you, there you go. Check them out. And maybe they can become your maybe you could use some of those for your personal Stormcast, which is a nice segue into our feature segment this week. Oh, look at that. That's professionalism, people. So, this week, we're going to return to one of our popular segments, and by popular, I mean I decide to do it pretty often, so that means if it's popular. I've never heard feedback from anybody, never really taken a poll or a survey, but we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly.
GW over there.
Right, exactly. I did my own market research right here in my head. It's popular. And we are going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Stormcast Eternals. So as we have reached the end of our first round of releases, I thought it best to see off our friends, the Stormcast, with a nice little round of good, bad, and ugly here, where we go in and we review what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly about that army, that range, that everything. And as this will be a nice bookend to finish off, the first really new army in quite a long time, and that is, I think, worth mentioning that, we've had a lot of the same armies for a while in
What was the last
Warhammer Fantasy. The last completely new, cut from whole cloth army.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you would count either the Ogres or the Tomb Kings, right? I mean, both of them were new as a standalone army. They existed as component sort of pieces of previous armies, but as a standalone army, they were new. So those were both around 2004, if memory serves.
I thought the original Tomb Kings was 2000.
2004 was the first.
I can't really chime in here because Tomb Kings and Ogres, they are new. When I was on a break, when I came back, they're new armies, so I really don't know when they. Yeah.
I bought the book the day the Tomb Kings book came out, so I mean, whenever it was, I want to say it was 2003, 2004, somewhere in that range.
Did they though? Did they go from undead to in one step they went to Tomb Kings and Vampire Counts, or did they go to Vampire Counts from undead and then they split into Vampire Counts and Tomb Kings?
They went undead. The Vampire Counts book came out first,
okay.
But it was because it was a 6th edition book. But then the Tomb Kings book came out, and it was total garbage. It was just, it was god-awful. I mean, it was just beyond garbage. You cannot imagine how terrible that army was in its original incarnation. Anybody who lamented playing Tomb Kings in 8th edition should have went and played them when the book came out in 6th. I mean, they were aces, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Stormcast. Here we go. Good, bad, and ugly. So here we go. Let's start with a round of good. We'll start on a high note. So, Ryath, as our guest, you get the blessing and the curse of going first. So we'll do 2 rounds of this, but give me a good and why about Stormcast Eternals.
Okay, well, I think it's a good thing because it's good for beginners. It's an easy to learn army. Their stats are fairly simple. Their war scrolls are fairly simple. There's no real tricks to their play. It's quite easy to learn, I guess. And they're an elite army, so they're they're very strong. They're very when you look at their models, they're instantly identifiable with what you think of a strong person's. Just with same sort of thing with 40k. Space Marines. It's if you're a newcomer, you don't really know anything about miniatures. If you look at a Stormcast, they look like kind of a bunch of heroes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe too much gold or whatever, but they do look like good, strong miniatures. They're not like clan rats where, they look like a bunch of rats just, scurrying around the field. Yeah.
All
so
right.
I think it's good. I mean, I think especially for beginners, you've got to suck people into the hobby through. You've got to catch the interest. So I think, as in, catch the interest. I think they're good in that way.
No, I agree. I think that when I think of fighters in D&D or white-green creature decks in Magic, right? These are great ways to start the hobby because the way that they play is fairly simple, straightforward. They're tough. There's not a lot of weird hidden complexity or nuance, and it's efficient and competitive at what it does. I like that. No, it's good. I think I definitely agree with all that. Tommy, now comes the fun part I've been waiting for. Say something good about Stormcast. Go ahead.
They are mechanically compelling.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I have not looked at one of their war scrolls and be that's a terrible unit. I can assure you, I've read a lot of war scrolls, and there are a lot of terrible war scrolls in the traditional armies. That I'm I would never field this. When I look through the Stormcast Eternals, I'm oh, all this stuff feels very well tuned. I don't feel Ren values are out of the way. I feel everything is very competitive. So from a numerical standpoint, the Stormcast are just a very solid army.
All right. Very good. I like it. All right. My good, I'm going to get more specific for the first time and for the first go-around. And my good is going to be the Lord Andrakoth because I love that model. It's one of my favorite models. The dude's a wrecking ball. I've
You've got
like
6,
5
man.
of them.
You're crazy about that model, obviously.
Honestly.
It's either you love Bandus, and when he's slain on the table, you actually burn the model, like that guy in the video burning his army, and then you get a new one. Or why would you have 6? I don't get it.
Exactly. Yes, you're correct. I play Iron Man: Age of Sigmar. Whenever a fig dies, I immediately melt the model.
Hardcore
So I
mode.
have lots of them. Yeah. All right. No, I love him. I think he's great. He's mechanically effective. And tying into what you said, his generalship ability, like his command ability, is just off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
The 24-inch bubble of Battle Shock immunity is
Yeah.
very forgiving for a new player, right? Because Battle Shock can be that thing that really surprises a new player of how crushing it is.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. When you see Flea in action, it's just like, wow, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
You roll a 1 and you've got like Bravery 6, and it's like you had 4 or 5 losses, and then the rest of your unit runs away. It's like.
Yeah, exactly. Scarbrand showed up, smashed you for 12 wounds or 15 wounds, and then the rest of your unit just fled, as well they should have. That's what I would do if I was one of the survivors. I'd get the hell out of there.
Scarbrand is definitely a prime target. He is.
Yeah.
I can't see him lasting longer than turn 1 or maybe 2 on the field.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the good, one round of the good. Now we turn to everybody's favorite, I suppose, for the Stormcast, the bad. All right, so give me a bad.
Whew, we're out of the woods. Well, the hard part was the good, because I've got to say, honestly, it was easier doing the bad and ugly than the good. But I'm not negative on Stormcast or anything, but it just was. So my point is, I think that the story is too focused on the Stormcast. Like, I know it's a new army. I know that they've got to push the army, and it's a new. They're completely redoing the whole. Warhammer is gone. The old world's gone. We're in a new age now. The Age of Sigmar and Stormcast are the main thing. But I really feel as like a mainly elf player with an open mind, it's hard to just. It seems like everything is just Stormcast. It's like nothing. No other army mattered. They were all obliterated. And now Stormcasts are here to save everybody, and Stormcasts are it. And it just seems like everything's focused on Stormcasts. Like, as an elf player, the only people that I know are alive is Tyrion and Teclis, right? And like they said, Tyrion and Teclis, they're in the realm of heavens, and like, the rest of the elves are either in Slaaneish's belly, or there really was no clarity on what has happened to my army. Right.
Nope, that's a good one. Let me pause for the cause here just to answer a few quick comments that had come in. I don't want to interrupt the flow, but John Telby said Undead were fantastic in 6 because they had fear, which was auto-route if you lose and outnumbered. John, that's true, but that was more VC. I was playing an all-chariot TK army. Chariots don't outnumber anybody, even with their unit strength. And Lord Cypress said he didn't want to derail, but he watched Once Bitten's latest vid, and he mentioned that OB got 3rd overall at Southern Assault. And shout out to him, certainly. Go check out OB's vid, not that he needs my hype for that. But he did a great job, and he did a great job at that tournament. So there you go, quick shout out. All right, those done. Tommy, keep going with a bad. I totally, by the way, just real quick to jump back, get us back on topic, completely agree. Way too much focus. They're on every cover, right, of every book. Like, every book is just like their face.
I mean, it's not surprising. It's not really surprising that they're pushing it, but pushing it to this extent where they're leaving people in the lurch. That people who care about it's the armies they've collected for decades or whatever. And it's not just me who's took a break. There's other people who've they've built their army. They've spent meticulous hundreds of hours painting their armies. They love their armies. They love the fluff, and they're wondering what's happened with their armies. And it's like it just seems like the focus is maybe a bit too much on the Stormcast because I've read the books up to now, and like there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and I don't want everything to be answered, but at least you want to have an idea of what's happened roughly with your army.
What this is did you ever see a show where they leave off an episode on a cliffhanger, right? And then you come back in the next episode, and they're not answering the cliffhanger at all. We just go to like some completely B character with a separate story, and we get like 20 minutes into the episode, and we still haven't touched that cliffhanger from last episode. And I'm like, Well, did that person get stabbed? Are they dead? What is happening? Why? How
Yeah,
did I
maybe
skip it?
they're just too good at sucking us in and
Yeah.
just making us want to know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just
So, yeah, I'm with
described
that.
like every other episode of Lost.
Well, yeah, that's. You mean a terrible show? Yes, exactly. So that's hence why this falls in the bad category, because Lost is a bad show, and this has been executed badly. There we go. All right, Tom, go ahead. What else is bad besides Lost?
I will
television
drill
show.
into narrow. I've complained about it before, but I can't miss an opportunity to bitch about it, and that is that space trash tornado that Prime is riding in on like a cowboy. Like here's the deal. I would be totally down if it was a bunch of clouds and other bullshit like that. Okay? Like if it was just winds around him. Totally in. But like the little hurricane. Don't just take it out of the way.
There it is. Hold on,
It's just gonna anger me.
on it. There he is. Look at him.
Hey,
He's
I
flying in
better
for you,
make some
Tom.
noise just to make sure
Exactly.
that he's on the camera. Phew. Look at him, man. Look how epic he is. Look at them swirls. Like
yeah.
Destiny, the first of Sigmar's greatest warriors, is here to save the universe.
It's so terrible. Like
Okay, enough.
it enrages me that like looking at those sculpts, like I couldn't even remove that trash if I wanted to.
Well, some of it is separate. Not all of it, but some of it's separate.
Some of it. But I don't know. Like I just come on.
You're an exacto knife away, buddy, from just being wind. I mean, it's not hard.
It's just it's ugly. It's bad. It's not ugly. It's bad.
I think the only problem with him is he looks a little tubby. He looks like he he's been drinking a bit too much mead in Sigmar's space station beer hole.
He is. He's a bit of a wide boy. He is a bit of a wide boy. That's got to be admitted.
Well,
But, I mean,
clearly
he was the first. He can afford to relax a little.
he was waiting on Gal Miraz to actually, show back up until he's been on the bench for centuries.
Yeah, he's drinking a lot of beer up there while he's waiting for the hammer to charge up. Yeah.
So, okay, that's me.
All right, fair enough. Okay, my bad. My first bad. Me bad? Now here's my first bad. No monsters. No Stormcast monster things. We've got the Dracoth guy, and I love him, but I want a real Stormcast monster or centerpiece. Like, the Celestin Prime is cool, and he's okay, and I'm glad it's fun and it exists. But I would have liked to see some more variants. A mounted Stormcast on something. Chaos Warriors, who these guys are theoretically the mirror of, right, to some degree, have monsters just falling out of their warp hole. And they're riding demonic mounts and skull crushers they're not skull crushers, they're riding juggernauts. Skull crushers ride juggernauts, but they're mounted on stuff. They come in all sorts of different sizes and shapes and ways, and we didn't get that with Stormcast, and that kind of makes me sad. I would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. Like, it was actually, you've got my second bad already. But I mean, no monsters, and to add to that, no wizards either. They've got priests, but they don't have wizards. No monsters, no war machines, no wizards. Like, and it's going to get into my ugly point as well. But so I'm not going to start that. But it's why not have more variants? To me, the Celestin Prime, whether you like the model or not, is at least different from your rank and file unit type.
Right.
And even the Vexillor and the Cassigor and so on, they're kind of, if you put them in a swarm of Liberators, you probably won't even recognize them. They don't even look any different, really.
Well, here's the real secret. I've been able to build all but one of the characters, which I went and bought, out of just conversions out of other models, and make something I felt completely legitimately close to that.
Yeah,
model.
no, I think that's great. If you convert, you're making your army, like, everything's unique, everything's looking different. But I think the mainstream doesn't do that. It's like, the mainstream just buys models, buys.
But it's
they
not
want to
unique.
Pardon?
It's not unique. That's the problem. Like, that's the exact. Yes, I agree with you about conversion. I don't mean to interrupt, but yes, I agree with you regarding conversion. It makes your army unique. Only that's the problem with Stormcast, is you can convert and you can't even tell that you converted. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, wait till my ugly. Wait till my ugly.
Well, let's lead right into it. Go. Take us away. Go with your ugly. Go right ahead.
My ugly is face masks are terrible. I'm sorry, but I need personality. I need to relate to the miniatures that I play with, and you know, we can compare it to Space Marines. Okay, Space Marines have masks on. But you get sergeants that have, you know, you see their faces. You know that there's humans under that mask. With Stormcast, you can't relate to a human face under that mask. There's nobody. There's no. Even if it was just like one or two models that had a human face, to me that would make things a lot better with Stormcast. But
there you go. Can I show you something real quick? Let me see if it'll come up. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus on him. There we go. How's that strike you?
It looks like a black spot on top of a bow and some big shoulders.
All right, well, we'll put the picture up. But yes, he has a human head on him. These are my adjudicators, which all have men-at-arms heads from Bretonnia. So
so they can actually use their bows.
Exactly, so they can use their bows, yes.
Yeah, but like seriously, you know, you've got to identify with your army, right? I mean, it might attract you initially that you see these muscly guys and stuff, but if you don't see faces, it's like it's so hard to identify. I don't know whether I can put it in the right way, but like, yeah, you know, compared to Space Marines, like I've got a Space Marine army, I've got Blood Angels. Like I like Space Marines, but you know, you see characters like Dante and like Mephiston that you see their face, you can kind of relate to them.
Yeah, and you get the idea that under every one of those helmets is definitely a face because a few of them have the helmet off. It only takes a few of them to make everybody, to make you just instantly say, yeah, he's just wearing a helmet, but there's a normal human face underneath. He could just go and pop it, you know.
Absolutely.
Even like the old Bretonnian models, even though most of the knights are riding around with full face helms, there was plenty of knight helms that had like that. You know, they gave you the extra helms that you could put on the saddle, so you could have the unhelmed face or the questing knights with normal faces and all that kind of stuff, right? So the idea is even if 80-90% of your army are just full plate helms, you never think for a minute there's anything but a human face under there because you can see the 10% that are.
Yep, because you know, like we've been really positive about you know, Stormcast Eternals. We bought 2 starter sets. We've been buying like Judicators and Celestial Prime and stuff, and painting all these models, and like we do like the idea of, you know, Stormcast Eternals, new army and everything, and like and painting them. They are great. It's nice to have something new, but the fact that you can't see, like, it just doesn't seem like they have any personality. It's like, I can imagine in my mind that there's a Games Workshop, you know, ZBrush computer artist that's got one mask of the, you know, the Stormcast Eternal, or one chest, as it may be in the Celestial Prime's case, and he scales it by 1.3, makes it wider, or the head he kind of modifies it a little bit, but they all kind of look the same. I want some personality in the army.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I'm with that. All right, Tom, what's your ugly?
You guys are just singing my language. For me, it's like they're Space Marines. Like, and I know that people are like, no, they're not. Bullshit. Like shoulders, like the crossbow bolters, like at a distance, you see them on the table. If you don't see anything else, I'm not sure that you're not playing 40K.
Look, you know, there was a meeting, right, where they all sat around and they said, look, 40K is working and Warhammer sales are a little bit down. I'm not being I know the Warhammer sales were pretty good and there's lots of support for Warhammer, old world Warhammer, but there's a meeting where they looked at Space Marines and they thought, this is our most successful you know, faction or race. Why are they the most successful? Because they're power guys. They're, you know, newcomers. They look at them. They're strong. You can initially, like, you can identify with them as like the good guys. You know, the good guys who are looking strong. And then they thought, okay, Stormcast Eternals, let's do exactly the same thing for the new Age of Sigmar. And they did that, but I think they did it. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad, but it's just not how I would. I think they should have gave it a bit more personality.
It's ugly, and that's exactly how I categorize it. Like, it's lazy.
No, absolutely.
Well, this is ugly category, so
yeah, that's the ugly category.
That's why I categorize it as ugly rather than bad. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, fair enough. My ugly is going to be these right here. I don't know if it comes through what those are. Can you see what that is?
The laser wings.
Yes, those are a giant bag of laser wings, of the Archangel metal laser wings, because this is every laser wing for every prosecutor I have that I didn't use because I used feathered wings. I hate these, and I hate the little comet hammer thing off the back. I don't cotton to these. To me, this only took it a step farther in the making them weird alien dudes. If they were going to be angelic, which is clearly what they're aping there, they're like these great warrior armored angels coming down on lightning from above, then give them feathered wings. Don't divorce them. This, to me, was the thing that was this was unacceptable, because this was that one straw to me that broke them from being anything like what I knew. It made them too alien. I don't know what this is. I've never seen this. Like, they could have given them weird, like, true angel wings. They could have eyeballs in them or something, like the old seraphim, like biblical seraphim or something or whatever. They could have 6 wings. They could be wings of fire. They could do any of that crap. Fine. But this, I don't know what this is. And I don't like this. And this makes it feel, this was too technical and jump packy, and I didn't like it. So all mine had feathered wings. So there you go. That's what I think about those. And if anybody needs a lot of those wings, you can contact me. All right.
Thanks for sharing, Vince. And if you want to burn them in front of us, you can also do that.
I would never burn a mini. I would want to see any good plastic go to good use. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean somebody else wouldn't. All right. Round 2. We'll go through it here. I'll start us off. Another good. We'll do another round of good, bad, ugly. So give us another good for the Stormcast.
Stormcast, well, I think they're easy to paint, and it's a new lore. There's this new story that's evolving. So, it's just something fresh. Like Warhammer needed something fresh, I think. And having a new race, or a new army, nobody's going to say that that's a bad thing. They might not agree with the Stormcast, the way that they've been done, but having another army, I think that's a great thing. And I guess that's kind of it. I mean, just
that's good.
Variety.
Agree completely. Tommy, what's your second good?
You're killing me.
I know.
Second good. What I would say.
Oh, did we lose him?
I thought my connection was gone there, but yeah.
Nope, there we go.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, let me say that again.
Oh, and there he goes again. How about we just
try it one more time?
Sure. I'll give you one more chance, then you lose out your chance this round. Go ahead. All right, that's it. You lose your shot this round. Hopefully, Tom. Yes, Tom will catch back up in a minute, I'm sure. And we'll go straight to my good. My good is the convertibility of these guys. I don't know how many people. I've seen a lot of conversions since the very beginning, and they are very, very conversion ready. These judicators that I've got here, I made out of like Liberator bodies. All I did was buy the bows and then just reform the arms. I have Bretonnian heads on all my guys. I have feathered wings on all my guys. Everybody's converted. I have different, shoulder pads. I mix in Bretonnian stuff. I mix in Empire stuff.
That's really cool. Vince, are you doing Bretonnian heads for all the models?
Every single one. There is all of my entire army is Bretonnian.
Man, you've got to show us some pics, some like nice camera pics of your armies laid out, like so we can actually see what Stormcast converted looks like, because I think that would actually look really good. I've always thought if you take the face masks off, these models will look amazing.
Yeah, and I really think it changes the whole dynamic. I have a bunch of different ones. Here's my so just to speak about convertibility. I bought the Knight Venator or whatever, the winged guy, the one with the little phoenix. And out of the extra pieces, I had like an extra prosecutor body, so I made the Knight Azeros out of, like, you can see he's got like the Bretonnian sword, the feathered wings. I used like a Bretonnian knight helm, right, and stuff like that. So I mean, there you go.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And also, like Bretonnians, every single unit I have is painted differently. So I took the idea of differently painted knights and expanded it to units. So I have the least coherent Stormcast ever. They are a cacophony of colors. There's blue and orange and magenta and white. Yeah.
It might be the least coherent, but I bet it's the best looking.
I doubt that. There are people who've done better, but I'm excited. I'm getting to the end once I'm done.
I've seen your painting, Vince. Come on, don't be modest.
All right, Tom, would you like to try your good again, since it seems like you're back?
Clearly, the fates are working against the reality that there is no more good. No,
Sure.
What I
Tommy,
would
you're not
say-
allowed to say anything bad about Stormcast, otherwise the internet will disconnect you.
Right. Right.
This is what I would say is that I've always wanted a holy army. I've always wanted like an army of like good God empowered mortals, and like that wasn't a thing unless you wanted to go chaos gods previously. And so like this is their first real foray into that like full on like divine good thing, and like and that is something that I love that movement in the lore to actually like begin to say like, can the chaos gods truly be challenged? So
Yeah.
Do you
totally
remember
with that.
when we first heard about the rumors? It was like that we were going to get a good version of Chaos Warriors. They were going to be like holy warriors.
Mhm.
In my mind, I had like Chaos Warriors, except like big guys, human heads, like shining armor. It was like it
I
wasn't
did
really
not
like
picture the Sigmar's Terminators.
yeah, like
Yeah.
robots.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
basically,
I pictured just like warrior priests, bigger.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Like big warrior priests in full plate. Like the hammers didn't surprise me. The hammer theme, like anybody, like I saw the hammer theme coming 10 miles away because I saw warrior priests. What's that? Yeah,
The game Warhammer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like the hammer theme was obvious. We always knew it was gonna be that. I just thought it was. I did not expect robots. All right, bad round 2. Yeah, start us off.
Okay, I think round 2. I think see my point was going to be like there's no monsters, wizards, or war machines in the Stormcast Eternals army, but I think you kind of jumped ahead of me there. So
Well, you brought it out. I didn't mention the wizards and things like that.
okay, I added wizards.
Yeah,
But
which
you said
is
no monsters or war machines. A variety. I think variety in Stormcast is like it's a little thin. As a new player, probably is fine, but like as a player that's you've got other armies and stuff, you like to see more than just units of troops. And okay, they've got a few different units of troops. You have flyers and like you've got the shooting judicators, you've got liberators, retributors, hand to hand, but there's not enough flavor. I think
Right.
Every army. Good.
it's new, so I'm kind of that's something that I don't think is permanent. It's just it's a new army, so give it some time maybe.
To add a point onto that, every army, Stormcast Eternals army at a distance looks the same.
Looks what? Sick.
Looks
at
the
a
same.
distance, they look the same.
Yeah, at all of them.
Oh,
No matter how you have
Yeah.
formulated your force, at a distance, every Stormcast Eternal army looks the same.
Sure.
I thought it was just me because we painted hammers Sigmar gold.
Is that your bad, Tom, right there? That from a distance they all look the same?
Well, no, actually, ironically, my bad was no monsters, no chariots. Like, which
Nice.
is
We were all on that page.
yeah,
Well, come on, that's a consensus, right?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
absolutely.
like there's just no variation, and it kills me, and like I had stretched this over my ugly as well, and I kind of readdressed this, but like I'll just drive it all home now that the other bad part of this is that it's over. It's
Okay,
not
sure.
just that those things don't exist in the army. Until we get a new book, they're not going to be there.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like in the end, I think this is the fighter, right, of the game. Like it's the simple onboarding where it doesn't have the more complex elements.
And that's fine. But the reality is that like they're not getting chariots.
Right.
They're not getting monsters. Like at this point, like that ship has sailed.
Right.
And that's like to me that's the real tragedy here is that it could be 4 to 8 years before we see these guys again.
Yeah, and like I was really surprised actually with all the releases for the Stormcast. They seem to be a different, and the same with the Chaos. They seem to be the same thing you get in the starter set, just with a different weapon. And I've not bought anything other than starter set components because of that. Because it just feels like I'm getting ripped off. If I buy a set of decimators, when I can buy a starter set for pretty much the same price, or close to, and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And they've got a double-handed hammer instead of a two-handed pole arm. It just does not make any sense to me.
I thought we mastered this technology finally when we did the Dark Elf release last time, where we got Bleak Swords, Dark Shards, and Dread Spears in one box.
Right.
And they just had a different sprue that had
Well,
different
they
weapons.
did. I mean, that happened again because we got the Liberators, the Decimators, and the whatever the other one, the Retributors or whatever. Not Liberators, sorry, the Retributors, the Decimators, and the Smashimators, all in the same box. I mean, those three different things. It's just, it's the starter box itself has always only had one build in it. It's only going to be. They're always going to be closer to mono-post than a starter box.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought the new releases would be a bit different, Like if we
Right.
had got a couple of like completely different type of units and stuff, it would have been a bit more flavorsome. It would have make me take on the Stormcast a bit easier,
Did you guys hear anything I said?
Nothing, but that's okay. We're moving on.
Can I briefly just make a statement?
Go for it.
I thought we mastered this technology with the last Dark Elf release.
Yeah, we got that, and then
Or did you guys?
I commented on that. Yes.
Tom, where are you, man? Are you in Kazakhstan?
He's in an internet black hole tonight, apparently.
Okay.
Vince's
one more
channel
time.
is global. We're from all over the place. So
Yeah.
Okay,
if
let's
you're
try
in
this
a
one
tent on the top of Mount Everest using a satellite phone to give us your,
Okay,
Exactly.
one more time. Here we go. I thought we mastered this technology back with the last Dark Elf release, where we got a box of Dread
Yes.
Spears.
We caught this point.
Okay.
You made this.
Okay,
Yes.
and what I would say is this. Like, I think the entire Stormcast Eternals could have been in, like, 3 boxes.
Okay, there you go. Point made. Well, thank
Yeah.
God that long road was totally worth it. Holy
Shut up.
shite.
it was.
That
Tom, that was a very valid point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
We only had to walk around the block 6 times to get there, but that's
Okay,
fine.
do
All
you
right.
need me to say it again?
It's
No.
just a shame the pollution over Vince's house blocked his communications.
All right, my bad. I've got a very simple one. This is a simple, small thing, but it cuts me right to the quick. No Gryph-hound box set. How are you gonna have a Gryph-hound unit? And the only way I can get one of those adorable little bird dogs
I know.
is in a $40 clam pack. You bastards.
And their best attack, right? You have to have a unit of them. You have to have more than one.
Right. Like, how is that not in a box? And by the way, whenever from now we do the corn show, you can pre-book me for complaining the same thing about flesh hounds. So just mark that one down in the future. But at least the flesh hounds existed previously. Like I can go buy metal flesh hounds or Finecast. They're garbage, but I can get them. There's no Gryph-hounds. That thing isn't a thing. It just doesn't exist. I can just scratch build those things out of dogs I glue bird heads onto.
You could use the
Maybe
eagle
I'm
heads
talking
from the-
about real dog and bird heads. Maybe I'm not. You don't know. All right. Moving on to ugly. All right. Riyadh, start us off. The final round of ugly. Go ahead.
The final round of ugly, I'm going to pick the Host Azeric, which is if you are crazy enough and you are wealthy enough to buy the biggest army set from Games Workshop for the Stormcasts, you basically, for like £460, which is probably about $900 or thereabouts, you can get exclusive rights to these rules, which are like Comet Strike Scepter. If you've got the Celestin Prime, basically every time you attack with that guy, you can summon a new unit, which I think is ridiculous.
Yes.
Right? And that's not the only rule. I mean, you can obviously lightning strike, deep strike your guys in as usual per Stormcast rules. But what's it called? I can't remember the name of what he does, but it's basically every time you use his Celestial Hammer, every time you attack with him, you can summon in a unit. So I mean, I just think that's ridiculous. Every turn, a new unit, unless you kill that guy.
He's pretty sexy. Yes, he's just striking him down. He hits you, and 5 Liberators fall out of the back. I picture it kind of like a Jamie Madrox multiple man, where he just swings, and 5 Liberators fall out the back. They all come rolling out.
Yeah, I guess it fits the fluff, but gameplay-wise, if I'm on the opposite side of that, I'm probably not going to be too happy.
I think that's totally fair. Tom, give me an ugly.
Sure. What's ugly is if this is determinative of what we've seen with this, even the corn release, of the shape of things to come. With regards specifically to the fact that we only have one named character. Think about that. Prime is a named, unique guy. and Scarbrand is a named unique guy. And that's it. In the entire force, we have one unique guy.
Korga Skull.
Yeah, Korga Skull is named.
Okay, sorry, that's true. I guess.
And Vandus Hammerhand is technically I mean, the Celestin Prime really isn't named. I mean, he's Karl Franz, obviously, but he's not ever named. But Vandus Hammerhand is the
I thought it was
Celestin on Dracoth.
I thought he was Prince Imric. No.
Prince Imric. I mean, you might as well claim like I did that he's.
What are you trying to say here?
Or Louis Leon Kerr.
Hey, come on, he already took Teclis and Tyrion into his bosom, right? Imric is obviously his #1 man.
Clearly.
No. No, what I would say is like, and this is like, it is going to be a different world if suddenly like all of our forces don't have named unique characters anymore. Like before, there was a glut of them per force. And now
I think they just don't want to overwhelm us right at the top with this.
Maybe.
I foresee a world of many new special characters.
We'll see. It was disappointing to me when like I realized that like we don't have a lot of named unique characters.
Wow, you may be the one person in the world complaining about a lack of special characters. There's got to be at least one more. But the two of you should find each other and start a club. Because you would really be... Boy, are you the man out on this one. I would guess.
I love unique characters.
This is my GW market research. I would guess that you are in the minority on this one.
I love unique characters. I do. And I always have. Like, I love things that play with the rules in new and different and unique ways. And unique characters almost always do that.
I get it. I like them when they're sexy, like a Deathmaster Snitch. Who,
do you think at what point do you think they're actually going? Because like you look at the old army books from 8th edition, where characters like Prince Imric wasn't there, even though his model was available. And like now, Age of Sigmar, these old characters, they've let us use them again. Some of them with really stupid rules, like hold hands out and hands behind your back, or beards and all this stuff, which is a bit silly, and it seems like something that's obviously not going to last very long because...
Right, because no new rule has had that stuff on it, yeah.
No, but yeah, exactly, yeah. But then, going forward, like, do you think that at some point they're going to start cutting characters? And then, on top of that, another question is, I don't know if you've seen recently their annual shareholders meeting for Games Workshop, where are you going to touch on this later, or maybe I can just say it now? But like,
no, go ahead. We didn't bring it up in the news since we went a little long, but go ahead and hit it. Yeah. It's
okay, well, it was an article by an independent person who was saying that that basically 20%. This is what his take on the annual meeting was: that lots of Games Workshop staff or management, they hadn't put it in print, but they were saying that they believe that Games Workshop is a company that sells miniatures for painters and collectors, and about 20% of their market is people who actually play with the miniatures, gamers. And in my experience anyway, I don't know anybody who has bought a miniature who doesn't play the game. And it's not something Games Workshop was said in an official statement. It was just something put in the article. And if you look at the comments on these rumor sites, you can see a lot of people saying that that figure, I don't think that's realistic, because it's the same thing. It's like the people that they play with, the people that they know. I mean, obviously there is a share that is just painters and collectors, and a lot of them are also the people who spend a lot of money on these web bundles, and they maybe they do collect like armies, and they're on their shelves, or they put them out to painting commission places to paint them for them, and they have a massive army stuff. But I think the mainstream, from what I've seen anyway, I really don't know many people. I don't know anybody. I mean, most people they love painting and they love gaming, and the proportion of that changes. Some of them like gaming more than painting. Some of them like painting more than gaming. But none of them are people who just paint and they don't game.
All right, do you want my take on this? Because I think I have the correct answer. Okay. Now, let me say this. We're playing telephone here, right? I'll post the article down below in case anybody didn't see it. It's a really good read, and it's from a business guy. He's a shareholder of GW, and he is really examining this from a financial point of view. And by the way, read the comments, because read until you get to the point where it starts being like actual players, basically, just pinging this guy. Read when it's other stockholders. Because if you look at the other stockholders' comments, The other stockholders are like, we want them to make an X-Wing game. Age of Sigmar is still too expensive. This stuff's still like you can see that's what the shareholders want. The shareholders want an X-Wing. They want pre-painted minis that just get put out in a super simple game or something like that. I'm not saying
and that's what he said in his article. Actually,
Yeah.
he said that when he was walking away from the meeting, he was thinking about buying his Age of Sigmar box for his kid, and then after his spell wore off on his way to the train or whatever, he thought, well, maybe I'll just buy X-Wing. And I just thought that's a really kind of negative article. I thought that there's not really much truth in it because, like, everybody that I know paints and games. They don't just do one or the other.
So here's where I think GW is getting this number from. Now, again, GW does do market research. He said it, blah, 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 in the previous year. I don't care, any of that. Here's what I believe. Here's what I think they believe. Okay? And I think this is probably true. Let me say this. I think that they believe that 20% of the people who buy their models play regularly, are gamers first. In other words, they play, let's say, more than or equal to once a week. Okay? One legitimate game every week. At least one game or more. Okay? And the rest of their audience is mostly aspirational gamers. Okay? People who play, who absolutely play the game, right? They're gamers. They are in no way, to us, the gaming population, we would never make that distinction. I would never look at somebody who only plays once every 3 months and say, oh, you're not really a gamer. Like, whatever. That doesn't matter to me, right? But I think that's what they're saying. So, like, I play once a week. I have a weekly game. But I think a lot of people out there don't have that luxury of, like, a club that they can play with every week and that they know are going to show up every time. And if you want a game, it happens. Right? Like, if I want a game, it happens. If I don't want a game, I don't game. But I generally get one once a week. And I think most people are trying to get a game in once a month, once every couple months, something like that. And I think that's, now, again, I don't have any hard data either. I'm just pulling this out of my butt. But
this is Vince's tinfoil hat theory.
This is absolutely. But I think that it's much easier to be that sort of aspirational gamer, and I think that's all they're pointing to. And I think it was blown up way wider than that, right? Because the aspirational gamer has lots of things they want to try, they just don't necessarily get to put it all on the table as often, right? As like the tournament player. Now, I don't know who motivates more purchases. And in the end, I don't care what type of gamer you are, right? Like if you're engaged in the hobby, that's cool to me, man. In whatever way you want. You like hobbying, you want to play, you play 7 times a week, play once every 3 months. That makes no difference to me, right? I just, like, if you're positively engaged in the community, awesome. But I think that's what that came from. I really, because I think that was taken out of context and played telephone with.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think that number is just, like, I don't believe that came from any official Games Workshop source.
No.
And I think that the whole article really was kind of a little bit kind of skewed, but you get things like that in the media sometimes.
Sure, it's interesting. Give it a read. I've got like 82 links to put at the bottom of this episode. So tell me what I forget. Hey, because I'm gonna forget stuff. So if you look down and don't see the 18 links I promised to put down there, you can put a comment. I'll add it. All right, Tom, you're ugly. You're final ugly.
I did.
You did? You did.
You're a beautiful high elf, by the way. Don't listen to Vince. You're not ugly, Tom.
No, you've
got the radiance of L'Ariel surrounding you. I can see the halo above your head.
Exactly.
I could swear I talked about.
Right? Oh, maybe we left off, and that's what tangent is. Sorry, we tangented there, people. I apologize. Oh no, it happens. Okay, fine. So my final ugly. Okay, right. I believe that's where we were.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my final ugly is the number of, I will pick a very specific thing, again, because I like very specific things. You guys have made such good broad points. The number of prosecutors needed for the Chamber Warhost scroll. You need 27 prosecutors, which is an outrageous number of those flying angel things for at minimum to do that big Chamber Warhost. And I really want to do it. I looked at the special rules and I loved it, and I was like, man, I don't know, I'm going to get 27 prosecutors. That's a lot of those guys. But yeah, that's ugly. That is an ugly number of prosecutors one needs, and I have a lot of them, but I don't have that many.
I did ugly for special characters. Remember how I?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Sorry, we went off on a tangent there, and we got back around, and here we are.
I hope I'm not disrupting your show too much, Vince.
Not at all. This has been a blast. Who cares? We're here to. This structure is here to make sure we have something to talk about. When something else comes up to talk about, let's do that. No. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Well, I would like to, on occasion, we will every so often, we have done in the past, we've looked at models, and I've asked people to send in their models and things like that if they ever do something that's really amazing, and I would like to re-mention that. If anybody ever has anything, you can always email me, vincentrventurella@gmail.com, and if we have time in the show, I'll certainly try to show it. But I just wanted to take a moment to show everybody a model that I saw on Cool Mini or Not, to close it out with that, talking about being a good painter and being a hobbyist. So sometimes I fancy myself to be a decent painter, and then I see models that look like this, and I remember that, oh yeah, that's right, I have a long way to go. This is
this has been up for a while in the top 10. It's an absolutely beautiful model, isn't it?
It really is. So this is by the Brush Dance Macabre by the Brush Mistress, and the work here, it's just off the charts. So there you go. Yeah, I just thought I would share that because that is just amazing technique, the diorama, the imagery, the scene that's set. Absolutely beautiful. And I felt like that work is good enough that it needed a little more, even a little more, to be shared, because it was just off the charts.
Yeah. I always think myself, when I look at miniatures like that, you can never really tell how much of it is, good painting, how much is like camera work and post-production, like Photoshop and stuff. But I think freehand always brings out the artist. So no matter how much Photoshop they do, if somebody's really good at freehand, like they were there in the mirror, and I think the artist, he made a comment in his post about what the whole diorama means. And the reflection on the mirror, and you can see it in the freehand. Just amazing work.
Yep. Yeah. Again, that is the place where hobby passes into art, right? When you see something like that, you're like, that is a piece of art, and as worthy as anything hanging in a gallery or a museum or anything like that. Where our hobby often is looked down upon, I think, by other types of artists, but that is art and deserves all respect. So I wanted to point out that amazing work. All right. Well, this has been an absolutely fantastic show. Riath, it has been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope I've not been disrupting your usual flow. I don't know how you usually,
No, not at all. This has been great. I think what we need to do to solve the paint-a-sode challenge, besides me just doing a 12-hour paint-a-sode to retake the title,
let's just do a paint-a-thon, right? And we'll stay on stream, and we'll keep refreshing stream, and whoever fades first is the loser, basically.
I think we need a combined paint-a-sode one of these weekends.
Across Atlantic paint-a-sode.
Yes.
Across Atlantic. Let's see whether us guys here, at the heart of the miniature wargaming,
world, absolutely,
where it all came from, whether us old-timers can, whether we can carry the candle, or whether you boys over there in the
in the new world, yes, exactly, yeah. The breakaway,
the new blood.
I like it.
And you guys have got the kahunas,
Absolutely. So I think everybody out here, you heard it. There are some paint-a-sode, paint-a-thon challenges coming in the future. Look for those crossovers. Tabletop, Warhammer Weekly, paint-a-thons. They're coming. All right. Tom, any final closing thoughts?
Go download the Mortheim book, read it, test it, give us feedback. We want feedback.
There you go. Absolutely. Please bring all the feedback. For now, you can just send it to an email or leave it in the comment on the video where I announce its release. Both of those are perfectly good places. I will also say, as my closing, don't forget to go visit tabletopminis.com and to go to their YouTube channel where all their battle reports are up and they're awesome and you should totally be watching them. As I said, the links for their channel are down below. But thank you again, Bud. I would love to have you back on any time. It was an absolute pleasure. Ton of fun. And
Thank you.
for all of you out there watching, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate you every week. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.